Hi, guys. Welcome back to another Balanced Boss Mom podcast episode. I am your host, Erika, and today we are having a meaningful conversation for all the moms out there who love their children deeply, but also miss herself in the process. So, in regards to this episode, I'm really excited because I want to first devote this to all the moms out there that probably just having the time of missing themselves, but they just want to regain all of this back purpose and promise and just get back with one with themselves. So, we're going to be talking about the different types of motherhood today, and it's going to be conflicting with the hot, the holy, and the deeply human. So I am excited about this podcast, and my guest here is going to be very, very excited. So I'm so honored to welcome today's guest, Gina Starbuck. Gina is a guide for women ready to step out of the burnout and self sacrifice into a more embodied, pleasured lead and sacred way of living and healing. So, Gina, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here too. So, before we dive in, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in your own words, who you are, where you're from, and what season of this life and motherhood that you're currently in.
Okay, who am I? That is like the question, right?
Mhm.
As you said, my name is Gina Starbuck. I am a mom of one little girl, a 9-year-old little girl named Jade, and I'm currently living in Los Angeles, California, but I do travel all over the world very frequently, leading women's retreats that are really centered around spirituality and embodiment. And I take people to like portal sites, sacred sites all over the world to really like work with and co-create with these
Mhm.
powerful vortexes in the earth. And in between that time, I offer online coaching and mentorship and guidance for mostly women in leadership. Leadership can mean so many different things, right? All of us as
Mhm.
moms are leaders by nature, right? By default,
Yeah.
whether we want to own that or not. And really, it's my mission on this planet to help humans to really understand our divine nature and how important it is to be fully expressed through our bodies. So, a lot of the work that I do is about the body, the voice, and creative expression as a tool for healing, for clarity, for alignment. And what season am I in? I'm in a wild season, is what I want to say today. I think, if we're talking specifically about motherhood, like it's wild to me that many women in our culture, like we're both in the US, don't actually know this fact. But if we're looking at like the energetics of mother and child, a child and their mother typically share an aura for about the first 7 years, which are also like such impactful developmental years mentally for the child.
Mhm.
But the mom is also sort of rewiring her entire brain and her entire cellular structure alongside the child. And then you get to this point around the age of 7, usually, where you start to feel like, oh, here I am again. It's not that you can't have yourself before that time, but it is a whole new season. It's like a whole new era. And so I'm watching her come into her like preteen years, and I'm coming into this sort of full circle moment where I really am feeling like, oh, I have more capacity now to balance like
Mhm.
all these different aspects of who I am, mother included. So that's what I want to say for now. I can be very long-winded, as you know already.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I think the listeners are going to really enjoy this episode. So, no, you could have the longest answer. And I like hearing long answers, anyways, instead of a short form. So, I like it. So, let's get this started right here. So, what does the hot, holy, and human really mean? Like it explains in a way where if we're sitting on a couch together, or for the listeners that may not understand what the hot, holy, and human way of motherhood is, can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this whole kind of concept of hot, holy human came to me fairly recently. Though as it was coming to me like in that specific language, it was like, oh, this is what I've been doing since forever. Like honestly, since I was in my early 20s teaching dance all over the world. It was like the same thing, just in a different venue, in a different way. And to me, I started to look at not just mothers, but women specifically, and what are sort of like the key ingredients of a balanced, healthy woman, period, across the board, like mind, body, soul, spirit, emotionally, energetically, psychically, physically healthy, well women. And I started to realize that there are these three areas that if we can have some semblance of balance between the
Mhm.
three, because balance to me is kind of a BS concept anyway, right? Like balance is going to look different at all times. Like it's never going to be 50-50, or in this case of the three pillars, like 33-33-33, right? It's going to
Mhm.
be like a little bit more in one area, a little bit more in the other, just depending on what we need. But anyway, the hot aspect of womanhood is really about being connected to your sensuality
Mhm.
and your creative impulse. And to me, sensuality and creativity are essentially one and the same. Like we actually are here to birth things, like, yes, physical humans, and to birth ideas, to birth energies, to birth new ways of being. And those things come through the sensual current of life, is what I
Okay.
call it. You get a little more into that. But secondly, the holy part, I think, is pretty self explanatory. That's about just having like a really healthy spiritual life, whatever that looks like. Because for some people, that's going to look like, daily devotionals in their Bible study. Some people that's going to look like I love to do shamanic drumming and sing into my Akashic records. Or, some people it's meditation. Some people it's a lot of prayer. It's a combination of all of those things. But some sort of spirituality would be the holy aspect. And then the human aspect is a bit self-explanatory as well. It's about like letting yourself be vulnerable, letting yourself be human and actually be in the human experience. And this
Mhm.
comes into play a lot for me with the women that I work with, because often the women that come to me are wildly spiritual, so much so that they kind of have these awarenesses of the metaphysical and these like other dimensions, but they struggle to actually be in this reality, this body, this human experience. But on top of that, the human pillar also includes like your mission or your destiny. Like, what
Mhm.
is your impact that you are having in the world? And I do see a lot of mothers, especially in early motherhood, struggle more so with the hot pillar, right? Like, because
Mhm.
it's like, oh, I'm a mom now. Where is my sensuality? What does that even look like? And then also the human pillar, because some women have this wild thought form, and I think both can be cultural, but this idea that like, oh, if I'm just a mom, I'm not having like a real impact on society, which is bullshit, right? Because like
Mhm.
the biggest impact you can have on the planet is being in service to the people who are the future of the planet.
Right.
Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but those are essentially like the three pillars. And to me, it's like if we have a healthy functionality in all of those areas to some degree, then
Mhm.
it gives us more well being, like across the board.
I like that. I like that self-explanatory of the three: hot, holy, and human. It makes you feel like you're seen and you're heard when it
Mm.
comes across the board. So I like that. So where do you think we pick up the idea that being a good mom means being disconnected from pleasure, desire, or our own bodies?
Ooh. I feel like it comes from what I want to say today, and this is so unusual for me to say, but this is what's on my mind and on my heart. Like, it comes from the patriarchy. Like, it comes from these systems of control that want to keep humans, period, but especially women, disconnected from their power. And somewhere along the lines, I won't get into like religious dogma or anything like that.
You're fine.
It seems that somewhere along the line, this concept that you could either be a healthy, good mom, a nurturer, a lover, a tender, soft, gentle woman, or you could be like a wild woman out in the world, and you could be a mom, or you could be sexy. Like, the whole thing to me, this split, this fragmentation is insane, because if you think about it, motherhood is inherently like sensual.
Mm-hmm.
Birth.
Yeah.
And it's wild. I was just in Egypt in November. This was like one
Mm-hmm.
of the retreats that I led. And there, in the temples, in the hieroglyphs, is such a beautiful celebration of women, motherhood, sensuality, like especially in the Hathor temple, the temple of Dendera, you can feel it. It's like she's the goddess of many, many things, but it's like motherhood and pleasure and music and dance and celebration and creativity. And she's like often represented as a cow, like a woman and a cow, because of the nursing.
Okay.
And they have all these hieroglyphs of women nursing like all over Egypt. And it was just so sweet for me, because I've kind of always known like part of the way that we heal collectively as a culture is to stop fragmenting
Mm-hmm.
mothers from all of the other archetypes of woman, and to kind of like, bring it all back together
Mm-hmm.
into wholeness. And in Egypt, at least, like, I can only really speak to specifically the temples and the hieroglyphs and stuff. I'm not necessarily talking about what's happening there culturally, because I didn't spend that
Mm-hmm.
much time there, but you can just feel it. It's like such a celebration of, like, I call it the erotic mother. Like, when I visited the Hathor temple, I was like, oh, it's the temple of the erotic mother.
That's
And
cool.
it felt so sweet and powerful and important.
That's really cool. So, was there a time in your journey where you realized motherhood didn't have the depth of your aliveness at some point in your
Mm.
journey?
Can you say that one more time? It ask me one more time.
So,
I should make sure I'm getting the
yeah.
question correctly.
So, was there a moment in your journey where you realized motherhood didn't require the death of your aliveness?
Oh, where it didn't require the death of my
Mhm.
aliveness. I don't know that it was like one specific moment. I think
Mhm.
for me, I had some birth trauma, and you and I have had some conversations beyond just this podcast. So you know this, and we talked about this a little bit.
Mhm.
That to me was like, it created a lot of fragmentation sort of in my spirit, and it required a lot of just like healing and recovery. And, you know, like, I think it's just something that has happened over time. I've had these like micro moments of like, oh, there it is. Oh, there's this piece of me that I thought died a long time ago, but never really died. It was just there kind of in the background. And I know
Mhm.
for me, I think like motherhood kind of got chunked into a lot of big, big life changes for me.
Mhm.
Like, with motherhood came the shift of my career. I had kind of been making my way out of the entertainment industry, which I was in since forever. Like, I booked my first professional job when I was like 15, in a commercial. And then I worked all over the world dancing and singing and acting. And it was like a very fast paced, very like in the limelight kind of,
Mhm.
like always on the go career. And I started kind of slowing down and feeling like, oh, it's time to make a shift. But I hadn't made like a full transition out of that. And then I became a mom. And I also was very early in my relationship. Like, I hadn't had very many like long term partnerships. And then I
Mhm.
met my daughter's father, and we got pregnant very, very quickly. So it was like all of us. And then I had all this birth trauma, and I really couldn't work in the industry. Like, it's not that the industry was like, no, you can't work, but I
Mhm.
physically felt like if I keep trying to do this, I won't survive. Like, it was that
Oh, okay.
detrimental.
Okay.
And so I was like trying. Like, I remember taking my daughter, she was, I think, 10 weeks old, Like we flew her with me and her dad to North Carolina, and I had this whole weekend of teaching dance, like 14-hour days of teaching and choreographing, like out of town. And he would like knock on the window when it was time for me to breastfeed. And like, some women do that and they're fine.
Mhm.
But I was like, oh, this is crazy. And I was like, I took her with me to a couple auditions, and I just was like, I'm exhausted. I can't do it.
Tired.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it was like kind of for me all at once. I went from this really fast paced career and like being on my own and kind of being able to do what I want, when I want, go where I want, like to, and being out like in the public eye with all this recognition and all these people kind of admiring me, to being like isolated, alone at home with my baby, with very little support from my village, healing from birth trauma, not having the career that really like was my identity since so long,
Mhm.
and then being in this like long-term partnership, which was also new for me. So it was like kind of all at once. It was like this big whirlwind of like, who are you now, And
Mhm.
I think I feel like I want to say this today because I do talk to a lot of women and mothers about like the importance of like, you need to connect in with your aliveness, with your sensuality, with your creativity. You've got to get out there, even if you feel like there's not community around you or you have nowhere to go. It's like, we do kind of need to get out there. But at the same time, I know for me, there was a lot of value
Mhm.
in those like more isolated, harder, darker times. I'm not saying like if you're depressed or if you're alone and you're struggling that you should just like lock yourself in a room and be like, oh, this is good and this is valuable for me. But I just know in my personal journey,
Mhm.
it really forced me to look at like, who am I?
Mhm.
Side of all of these identities that have been kind of placed upon me, or that I've just been functioning in because that's how it's always been. Like if you strip away all of that, who am I at like a molecular soul level? And then, it also made me look at my values. And ultimately I came around to the fact that like I, as a soul, deeply value passion and pleasure and play and creativity. And so it was like, I just had all these micro moments of like, this is what you love. This
Mhm.
is what you need. This is how you move forward. And it's super crazy. And I know I'm talking a lot, but I just want to
No,
say one more
you're
thing.
fine. No, you're fine.
I know for me, and this also can be true for a lot of women, like amidst all of it, from the outside in, unless you like really, really knew me, maybe in the very beginning it was like obvious, like, oh, Gina's really struggling. But there were so many even years in my journey where I was struggling. And from the outside in, people didn't really have an idea of what was going on because I was so high functioning. And so,
Mhm.
like, my sort of 40% looks like a lot of people's 100%. And I say that not from ego, just from like the truth of my
Mhm.
own journey.
No,
And so
everybody's journey is
yeah, I was able to, even functioning at like, again, 40% of my capacity or my aliveness, I was still able to do and
different.
accomplish a lot of things and like touch a lot of lives. And it like really was at the detriment of my own well being. And I think I had to have like a big reckoning with myself where I was like, you know, you want to help people, but
Mhm.
you cannot help as much as you want to help if you don't really help yourself first. It's like that, put the mask on, put your whatever, the airplane, right? Like put your air
Yeah,
mask.
get the you gotta get the oxygen. So,
Yeah.
and I know we're shifting a little bit. So, like I said, everybody's journey is different. Not everybody has. Um, Today it was 100% day for me. Maybe tomorrow will be 80. But like you said, everybody's journey is different. So when it comes to like the burnouts, because burnouts get talked about a lot. A lot of moms talk about the burnouts, but not always fully transparent or honest about their burnout. So what does burnout actually look like? in mothers from your perspective when you see that shift?
Gosh, it's kind of tricky to give like a blanket statement because everyone is so unique and so nuanced.
Mm-hmm.
But what I want to say is a lot of times women come to me and they think they're burnt out, but they're actually just underexpressed. So it's like you can feel exhausted, like dried up, uninspired, like scattered. Your thoughts are kind of drifting all over the place. These are kind of like the indicators of what I might like. We can call it burnout. And as I say it, I'm like, it's not actually burnout, but just for the sake of naming it. And oftentimes it's not even that. And then you think, and this happened to me, it's like, okay, I'm burnout. I'm stressed. I'm tired. My weight is a problem. My health is suffering. So I'm going to try this supplement and I'm going to try meditation and I'm going to do this breath work session and we do a lot of things to try to down regulate our nervous system because this is kind of what we're taught. If you're struggling, down regulate, go into meditation, have some peace, have some
Mm-hmm.
quiet time. But what I have noticed, at least with the women who tend to work with me, is that that's not what you actually need. What you actually need is to like shake your ass, to dance, to write a poem, to sing a song, to like go out and laugh, to create something, to scream, like to
Mm-hmm.
scream into a pillow. It's like your nervous system actually needs movement. It needs to mobilize because sometimes, like I know for me, especially going back to the birth trauma, it's like there's these things that happen with our nervous systems where if we don't get to have the appropriate response, like for an example, if you have trauma and what really like would have been most helpful for you is to have a full-blown fight response, but instead you had to have a freeze response or whatever, your nervous system is still looking to complete that cycle, is wanting to complete that fight response. But if you're constantly trying to just go into meditation and like
Mm-hmm.
calm yourself down, you're not actually giving your spirit and your nervous system the chance to really move those things out of your body. And so, burnout, I think burnout is thrown around a lot,
Mm-hmm.
is true burnout. And I think more often than not, it's not that. It's just being underexpressed.
That's good. That's a good way of putting things, I think sometimes when you're underexpressed, you want to say what you want to say, but sometimes we're afraid to say, like, hey, we're not having a good day,
Mm-hmm.
or we're just sometimes may feel like if we say something, it's unappreciative, so to speak.
Mm, yeah. I think that that's a big problem too, just in our culture with motherhood. I mean, and I'm positive you've probably dealt with this. I think most of us have, where it's
Hmm.
like, there's just not enough space, I think, in our culture for us to be like, I am deeply grateful and I love being a mother and I'm fucking exhausted and I need help. It's like, again, it's one of those fragmentations where it's like somewhere in the ether, there's these ideas that you can't have both, that you're either grateful and appreciative or you're worn out and you need help,
Hmm.
unhappy or
And I feel like
unfulfilled.
you can have both. It's just aligning when the right time to have both, or just speaking up and just saying, today is just not a good day. And I
Yeah.
think that needs to be valued and appreciative of saying, although we're having a bad day, we need that village for today.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that is like a deep sort of wound and pain point in our culture that we just
Mhm.
are under villaged. There's a shortage of community and we are pretty isolated, and
And
that's
we do isolate ourselves sometimes, because I know when I had my birth trauma, I couldn't walk. So learning how to re-walk and re-shower and re-eat and still trying to take care of a newborn, that was very new for me,
yeah.
especially having well over 40 stitches, you know.
Oof.
Yeah. I had a fourth degree tear, so I had a whole new pre-surgery from the
Uh,
reader to the tutor. Yeah. But I'm so glad I got the free surgery because I was like, works for me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, at a cost.
At a cost. And then when I get the hospital bill, I was like,
Yeah, well, and it definitely wasn't free for you, like
I was like,
emotionally.
it wasn't free after all. But you know, it's often where there is so many things where as a mom we say we're good moms. We are. And we still need to put whether you're shifting from having 1 to 2 kids or 2 to 3 kids or having a whole Brady bunch, 7 kids, 11 kids, however many kids you have, you still have to work on saying, I am a good mom and it's going to take time and this is going to be an adjustment. Um, with things evolving, like with me and my sister, it's my sister now has 2 kids and I still have one. So it's like that shift of, wow, you got 2 kids, but you got one. So like you could just pick up and go. And I have to deal with this huge gap. You know, she's dealing with the huge gap with my nephew and my niece. So, and so I see her, you know, we talk recently and I explained to her, I said, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. You really are a good mom. You're just now having you're now having your first girl. So you just have to give yourself some grace and give yourself some time and you're gonna figure out the routine that is gonna come into play. And
Yeah,
so it is true where moms do need to get out there when they're overstimulated and overwhelmed and they need to go for a walk or scream in that pillow or write in that journal to themselves on like today's date I was not having a good day, but maybe tomorrow will be better. Or do some reflections in that journal. So that's what I think is pretty cool. And so um, let's get into a little bit about pleasure and desire and leadership in motherhood because I've been very curious. So pleasure is often seen as like an inappropriate for moms. Like we can be hot moms too. Okay. So why do you believe pleasure is actually an essential and not optional? I think it'd be optional personally, me, but hey.
you think it could be optional?
I
Is that what you
I I would have to agree to disagree and say we all need it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it should be optional, not essential. So for the moms out there, get it how you fit it. Okay?
it should be essential. Is what. Well, I think you're saying the same thing, but it's not an option. it is
It's
not an.
not an option.
Yeah,
You're
you
saying the
need
same thing.
it. like, ooh, where do I want to go with this? I was chuckling because I can't remember what you said, but it was like something about like moms can't be sexy or something
because
like that.
yes, because they're saying that pleasure is often seen as inappropriate for moms. And
Ah, that's what you said. Yeah, I was
I don't
chuckling.
think
I was
it's
like,
seen as inappropriate because when you're watching Coyote Ugly, okay, where they're moms now and it's an essential. So I must
yes,
agree.
I agree. Gosh, the pleasure current. I mean, if we just zoom out and think about like, why are we even here? Why did we as souls decide to come into human form and have bodies? Like, we came to experience the full spectrum, the myriad of what it means to be a human. And also, if you're not willing to, or you feel like you cannot enjoy your life, what imprint does that leave on your child?
Mm,
Like the the biggest gift I know that I have given my daughter is that I am a woman who lives all the way. And we can talk our children to the ends of the earth. But
mhm,
what gets imprinted into their nervous system, into their energetic being, is not what they hear us say, it's what they see us do and the actual energetic resonance, the frequency of how we live. And yes, that's a lot of pressure to know and understand that. And of course, we are human and they are,
Mm-hmm.
and we come in, at least my belief, we come in with our own set of things that we're here to work through and here to accomplish, and so do they. But and there is absolutely no denying that we don't directly impact the way in which our children function through their entire lives. And like I could go on and on for eons about how pleasure is essential because it's health. Like pleasure is health. If you just think about a happy person, like a someone you know who just loves life and is joyful. And of course, like we're human, we have our down days, like we have our moment. I was just sobbing yesterday morning for like 2 hours about something, moving through some big grief. But like my nature, how I choose to live is sort of in devotion to pleasure. And you can see it. Anyone who meets me is like, what's your secret? Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? And it just makes you more healthy when you're willing to like actually really enjoy and savor the sweetness of life however you can. And even to the point, like for me, I feel part of my journey as a woman and as a mom and as a leader that I am
Mm-hmm.
has been in learning how to, I don't want to say like enjoy the hard stuff, but kind of like I have figured out a way to be inside of deep challenges and pain and grief and the things that I know are part of the human experience. And I can still hold this knowing that
Mm-hmm.
like this is part of the cycles, this is part of the ebb and flow, and I can actually see the beauty in it. Like I was saying earlier, like now I can see the beauty in my early motherhood journey and the trauma and the being isolated and all of those things, and how it gave me more depth to tend to myself, to love myself, to see other people with more compassion. Anyway, yeah, pleasure is essential, but I think sometimes we have a like a misunderstanding or a misinterpretation of what pleasure even is, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
so many ways that you can kind of activate your pleasure center. For some moms, it's like I think about when my daughter was a newborn, like just smelling her. Like, oh my God, I lit up with so much joy and pleasure and beauty and like love. And, sometimes like today I was listening to this song called Money Moves, and it's like this like manifestation song that's got like a wild beat. I had never heard it before, but it's like she's rapping. It almost sounds like a Cardi B track, but it's not Cardi B at all. And I'm like shaking my butt and I'm just like, oh my God, I fucking love this. Like there's so much pleasure available in so many different ways. And I think it's important that we show our children like life is for living and
Life
like
is fun.
life is for living. Yeah. And it's fun.
Mm. It is fun. So, in this, how does a woman being turned on by her life, like creatively, emotionally, energetically, changes how she can show up as a mom, but not only as a mom, but as in different spaces of her life, like a leader, or even show up to work, or just show up overall?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important, I do talk about like turn on as a key code to like leadership, to motherhood, to embodiment, joy, whatever. My definition of turn on is not just sexual. Like that can absolutely be a part of the whole conversation, and I think it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but when I speak about being turned on, it's more like being plugged in, right? Like being plugged into your life force, being plugged into your passion, being plugged into your mission, your soul mission on this planet, your connection with the divine. And like, again, when you are plugged in, you have access to that life force, to that energy, to that vitality, to that
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. And so, of course it impacts everything because it's just like I have my ring camera, my ring light on right here. It's like if I unplugged it, I would go dark. Like
Mm-hmm.
So, just activating that energy of just every single day. Am I plugged in? Okay, good, let's go. And it's going to be a little bit different. Like my ring light seems brighter right now because the sun is going down. But when the sun's up, it's still the same ring light, but it seems a little less bright. It doesn't make it more or less valuable. It's just that like the external circumstances kind of change, but the plug stays plugged in and the light stays
Yeah,
lit. And that's kind of my point. It's like if we're lit,
yeah,
we're
I
all
like it.
more impactful.
I like it. So, what do you notice about families when mothers stop apologizing for wanting more than just being survival, like in that survival mode?
This is good. I mean, I've seen this in my own household in ways. And I've seen it in a lot of households. I think there's often like an adjustment period because I think also what happens a lot of the time is women will realize that they're disconnected or they're dissociating or they're not fully plugged in or they're self-sacrificing, and then they get
Mhm.
really pissed off and they kind of like tip the scale way far in the other direction, and they're just like, screw you, I'm not doing anything, and blah, 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 you know what I mean? And we all have those moments. But once we get through that period and things equalize, there's just, to me, the way I like to describe it and the way I see it is there's more space. There's like more
Mhm.
breathing room. There's more spaciousness. And again, I know I talk a lot about the nervous system, but like our families do share a nervous system, like especially when we live together in the same household under the same roof. There's your nervous system and, your child's nervous system and your partner or whoever else is in the home. And there are those individual pieces, but there's also like an overarching nervous system. And the mother
Mhm.
does tend to be sort of like the central operational system of that bigger system. And
Mhm.
so when the mom is the central part of the family nervous system, if she can be moving, she can be, expanding her capacity and she can get plugged in and turned on, it's like this life force starts to cycle and then everyone starts to kind of like benefit, and it's like a rhythm. I feel like a new rhythm comes into the family system, and it's really powerful
I
to
like it.
witness it. And it also is like, I think by nature,
Mhm.
like your capacity to handle, like not just the mom, but everybody's capacity to handle challenges or surprises or things that come up, it just naturally gets bigger. So it's kind of like also if we're looking at like our health, right? Like oftentimes this happened to me years back. I had all these food sensitivities because like foundationally my body was struggling. Like my system was struggling. This was like kind of in the middle of those really hard early mothering years. But once I got like kind of down to the roots and started to like recalibrate everything and get healthier on a foundational level, I
Mhm.
didn't have food sensitivity anymore
Oh,
because my whole
okay.
system was functioning more healthily. So it's like a lot of times when moms are turned on and in their pleasure, like you're less affected by the like little things that ping in, that oftentimes
Mhm.
when you're not plugged in and when you are kind of all over the place, you can get set off really easily by something. It's just not, you're less affected, like you're more resourced.
I get it. I see it now. I see it a little bit better. Now, I know we were talking about like a little bit outside about the Mother Prius, and you spoke about it a little bit outside what it was, which was pretty cool. So, can you explain what that archetype represents in a real everyday life?
Yeah, the mother priestess. So I had this conversation. The woman that actually co-led the Egypt journey I did in November, her name's Sarah Jane Perman. She's a beautiful, gifted priestess, also a mom, teacher of like feminine wisdom. And when we first met, we were having this conversation about like, this is kind of a whole other topic, but sort of historically So a priestess is just a woman in service to the divine. That's the simplest way I could
Oh,
say
okay.
it. And
Okay.
the priestess is like a theme or a name, a title that's being thrown around a lot lately in the like new age movement. And
Mhm.
a lot of women are like, I'm a priestess, and they've got like a flower crown and like a flowy outfit, and like they're rubbing roses all over their face, and they're like, like going all over the top. And I do that. I mean, sometimes there's ceremony and there's things, but it's like,
Mhm.
to me, a priestess is not an aesthetic. A priestess is an embodiment. It's a woman who is like deeply initiated in what it means to
Okay.
be in service to the divine and to share the gift of like divine wisdom with others. But again, similar to like what we talked about with the hot holy human, there's this fragmentation between the mother and the priestess where maybe, and this still happens, right? Like actual priests, even now today, they have to take a vow to the church and give up everything else. Like they can't have a family, they can't have sex, they can't, it's like
Mhm.
that's what they're doing. And there was a time historically, way back when, where, a priestess would take a vow to the divine or to the church. I actually just saw a story about this in Egypt. I was at they just opened the new museum,
Mhm.
the new Grand Egyptian Museum. It's called the Gym. It's huge. There's all these ancient artifacts that are like being returned back to Egypt. It's like culturally a big, big, huge moment for them. And they've got all these artifacts in this massive museum. And I felt
Okay.
drawn to this one sort of like statue. And the story was about, I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was about like she had to take a vow to the divine, but then she had fallen in love with someone, and it was like this whole thing. So anyway, I'm
That's
going on a
cool.
tangent.
No, that
But
is cool.
it used to be that like you could be a priestess or you could be a mother. You couldn't have both. But I think at this point, like the mother priestess is being just like the erotic mother, the mother who's plugged into her sensuality and her creativity. The mother priestess is another archetype that's really
Mhm.
being invited to take the forefront of like leadership on this planet. And it's so beautiful because I think for me, mothers are I don't want to get nobody cancel me for saying this. This is just a thought form that's coming out, but like mothers to me are like potentially the most valuable members of society for so many reasons. Like motherhood
I
does
agree.
something to a woman. And so to be able to have women who are mothers, but also priestesses, is so powerful. These mothers that are in service to their children and to their families, but also in service to the divine and like living both of those archetypes fully and wholly.
Mhm.
So powerful.
No, and that's the beauty side of things. It's also made me question about how does the is it archetype
Archetype.
archetype, okay, archetype challenge the idea that mothers must choose between being devoted to their family or being devoted to themselves. I feel like it should be equally, it should be equally yoked, where you can have that devoted time for your family, but have that devoted time to yourself. Because again, if your battery is down and you don't have that cup being full, you're not going to be able to be devoted to your family.
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. So I think this is kind of like a full circle moment. I think what we're getting at here across this whole conversation, how important it is for a woman, for a mother to be integrated in all of the aspects of your life. Whatever
Mhm.
archetype you carry, because everyone is different, like, and we could probably have 10 podcasts about archetypes, but it's like
I know,
whatever
and
you,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you're meant to carry, whatever archetypes exist within you, letting each of them have a seat at your table. This is
Mhm.
how we live well. At least this is how I see it and understand it in working with like a lot of women, not just me.
I know, and that's what's making me. I said, I know you said we could talk about this for hours, which because we really can't. Because now I'm like intrigued and want to know more about your Egypt trip, And we got to dive in a little bit more into your work now that we're about to wrap this up. But you offer your signature 101 container, Hot, Holy, and Human. So, who is this work really for, and what kind of transformation do women experience?
Yeah, Hot Holy Human is the signature framework for one-on-one. I'm closing my eyes because I'm just like, what wants to be said right now? As someone who is so like multidimensional and
Mhm.
operating and working and living in like many realms, not just this one, it can be tricky for me sometimes to kind of summarize in English language what's even happening. But I would say the Hot Holy Human container is for women who are ready,
Mhm.
really ready to take radical responsibility
Mhm.
for themselves, for their lives, and to step into a life where you actually are living the fullness of who you are in all areas. So, women who are ready to not just have an abundance of goodness and health and well being in just their family life, but also in your career or what you're doing in the world, and also in your creativity, and also in your relationships. And like, so it's a place to really come and look at like all aspects of your life and bring
Mhm.
them all up. Like, bring them all up a level, bring them all up an octave. It's also for women who are ready and willing to kind of step out and to be seen and to be visible
Mhm.
and to really say yes to your purpose, whatever that is. And like, you know, it might be that your purpose is to really, really be in the highest service to your family and to your children. And that's beautiful. It might be that, like, I have this massive dream of creating. I don't even want to get into it right now because I'm holding it close to my chest, but this is like a global thing that's wanting to be birthed through me that will potentially impact like millions of people, millions of women.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's like everybody's mission is different, everybody's dream is different, but it's a place where you work with me one on one to really
Mhm.
say yes to your dreams, and then to like really learn what it means to embody like the woman who can move forward to make those dreams happen, and
Mhm.
who can handle the moments that come, because a lot of times we say we want things, right? But then we're not ready to actually receive them when they come. Like, we haven't built the capacity in our nervous
Yeah.
system and in our
Mhm.
spirit to step all the way into these things. And so it's a lot of that.
Mhm.
Um, the transformations are wild. Like, this is something I've been sitting with too. Like, how do I summarize this? Because it's so unique for each woman. But I would say, mm, overarching, what do I want to say happens for all of my women? It's like I would just say you become more yourself. Like,
Mm.
not the
Okay.
version of you that you've been. Like, if you are out of alignment, sometimes you can be like, oh yeah, this is just me. Like, I'm just the one who A, B, C, D. But no, like, you become more in alignment with the version of you that you are actually truly destined to be on this planet. And it's like when it clicks,
It
it
clicks.
clicks. And like, I've seen all kinds of crazy stuff happen, like money wise, work wise, relationship wise. You know, people who've been like searching for their beloved partner for
Mhm.
15 years, and then we worked together for a little bit, and 2 months later they're like, I met the man of my dreams. Or like,
That's
you know,
cool.
money things, like their business taking off, you know, like all kinds of wild stuff
That
happens.
is so cool. Now, I know you also have a women's retreat coming up in Bali, which I have never been, but I have travel on my vision board. Shame, shame. I need to start traveling. But what does that experience invite women into for your upcoming trip to Bali?
Well, every retreat is unique, and the way that I curate the retreats is I like tune into the land. So, like, the retreat in Egypt was very, very different than what Bali will be. And I have two private one-on-one retreats in Tulum in April. Those will be their unique thing. But for Bali, this one is really about getting filled up, like getting poured into. Like this one is luxury. We're at this luxury eco villa, which is got like sweeping views up on a mountaintop. We'll have private organic chef. We've got butler services. There's multiple pools on the compound. We're having like a private Balinese dance performance. They come to us. We're having a local village priest come and do a water blessing on us. We're going to visit a famous Balinese healer. We're going to one of the most incredible places I've ever been in my whole life called Pyramids of Chi. Plug for Pyramids of Chi.
That.
You have? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
They do ancestral sound healing there. We're doing something called a scalar energy healing session. I have a crystal chalice that's like tuned with the scalar frequency. It's this 0 point technology that's like got all this wild research on it. Anyway, we'll be going to temple visits, but the way that I curate the journeys, like I have this magical gift of finding the most incredible people in the most incredible places, like everywhere I go. And so you get the kind of experience you wouldn't even get if you went on another retreat. Like when we go to Tirta Impul, which is like one of the famous water temples where you receive the water blessing, we also have this extra experience where we get to go up to this other part of the temple and be in a prayer service like with the actual local Balinese people.
Oh no, that is going to be beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many moments like
So
that that I'm
many
like,
things you're going to be, and they say once you go to Bali, I've heard once you go to Bali, they say when you come back, and I've been hearing this a lot, you come back to the United States and you're going to be so different when you come back from Bali.
yeah, you are. This will be my third time in Bali, my second time leading a retreat there.
I'm jealous. I need to, I'm telling you, I need to take a trip and it's going to happen. Now you
Please do.
also, I am. I have it on my vision board. You also have a free resource for listeners as well. So what does it help women reconnect with before we go?
Beautiful. I have two freebies actually. One is a fairly new one. It's this 9-question quiz that I curated, and it helps you to learn what your soul blueprint archetype is. There are 4 unique archetypes, and it will tell you like what are the gifts of the archetype and kind of what are the challenges of the archetype. And then once you take the quiz, you receive like some extra things from me. Like I have a whole voice note that I send you that's about your archetype and how you can work with the archetype with like a guided session to align your energy. And then there's other things. So that one's really cool and that's brand new. And then I've also got this 25-minute, it's like a pre-recorded session with me, but it's called the Embodied Power Session. It's a journey through movement. So I give you like some guided movement processes, and then we go into like a soul connection where you connect with your highest self, and then we do a vocal activation. So it's like kind of a, the body soul. So I have Hot Holy Human, but I also have something called Body Soul Song. Everything with me is like a 3. It's always like a pyramid. So we move through the body, the soul, and the song in that one, and that one's also really special.
I am excited for the listeners to check out that freebie. So please check that out. So I have a few more closing reflections before we close. So what does a living hot holy human life look like for you on a random Thursday?
Well, today Thursday?
Today's Thursday.
That's hilarious. For me, the hot holy human life, for me, this could be different for other people, but has a lot of space for things to be different every single day. So it's funny, one of my clients, we had this conversation. She likes things to be like everyday, like predictable. She likes predictability. I am the complete opposite. Like if I had almost nothing the same ever, I would be happy as a clam. So, but I'll tell you what it was like this Thursday. This Thursday it was really beautiful because Thursday mornings, Daddy does wake up, Daddy does school drop off. So I got to sleep in a little bit. He made me the most yummy breakfast. I got to have like a spacious morning and hug my daughter goodbye. And then I got a little work done, which was like I think today it was some emails, some posts, some coming up with some details for some client curation stuff that I'm doing. And then, and I made this fire playlist today that I ended up sending out to my clients for anchoring in the energy of the fire horse, because we're like on the tail end of the year of the snake and we're coming into the fire horse in like 5 days. So I sent out an email to my clients with that, with a couple of other things. Anyway, what else? I went for a walk. We walked our dogs, me and my baby daddy. I had some lunch. I took a nice long bath. I chatted with a couple more clients. I didn't actually today. It's not like this almost ever, but I didn't have any client sessions on the schedule. But I chatted with some clients for some upcoming things. What else did I do? I worked on taxes. I did some card pulls. I did a tap in with my students. I'm teaching something called the Embodied Akashic Healing Certification, which is like the modality of healing I created. And so I was tapping in with them, checking in, making sure they're actually doing their stuff that they're supposed to be doing.
That is a fulfilled Thursday.
Yeah, it was a very flowy day. Not every day is like that, but that's what I like about the hot, holy human life. It's like some days are super flowy and a little productive. Some days are very productive and a little flowy. But every day I'm doing things that I love and that I'm passionate about and pouring into myself and other humans. So.
Well, that is cool. 2 more questions. What is one thing about motherhood you've had to radically unlearn? And then lastly, what do you hope women feel after listening to this conversation?
Ooh, okay. One thing I've had to radically unlearn has been that I really have any control over who my daughter is. Like, she is who she is, and it's perfect. It's so funny. I know we talked in this conversation about like how I am affects her, and that's true, but like she is fundamentally who she is. And I think sometimes we come into motherhood thinking like, oh, I'm going to shape them and mold them and whatever. And it's like, no, she came in hot. She knew exactly who she was, and she is teaching me every single day. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is like this idea that there's like one way of parenting that is like the right way. Like I know when my daughter was really little, we were like heavy on the gentle parenting. And I'm chuckling because I know we had another conversation kind of about that. And it's not that we're not gentle, we still are, but like my daughter is a spitfire and it doesn't always work to like gentle parent her. Like there's just other ways. And then what do I hope the listeners take away? I think permission to just be who you are without any shame or doubt or need to mold yourself into something that you are not. That's what I want to say.
That is so true. Let that be a goal for 2026, okay?
Yes.
And be unapologetic for what you do.
And be hot.
And be hot.
Be a bad bitch.
For 2026, that is what I'm trying to be. All right. Well, Gina, thank you so much for this conversation. Your presence and wisdom are such a gift. For everyone listening, all of Gina's links, including her 101, her Bali retreat, and her free resource, are going to be included in the show notes. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with a mother who needs permission to feel alive again. I know I'm going to be re-listening to this as well. Until next time, take care of yourself. Like, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to my platform. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, wherever you see the podcast. Just hit that follow button. Until next time, bye, guys. And thank you for listening to the Balanced Boss Mom podcast.
Thank you.